Why is President Cyril Ramaphosa failing to take action against Senzo Mchunu? And this is the overarching question that most of us in the public have, and doesn't seem like anyone is willing to answer that question. President Cyril Ramaphosa himself does come up with names of people that have to be disciplined, that have to be investigated, but Senzo Mchunu comes across as untouchable despite the crazy allegations we keep on hearing in platforms like the Madlanga Commission.
Fire them. Number one, at the political level, I don't need courts. It's an executive decision. The smell of corruption, you go.
So Senzo Mchunu should no longer be there.
He should have long been fired. I said it many times.
I'm using an example.
Yes, and I'm not afraid to repeat what I said. He should have long been fired. He's not fired. He's been paid. We have money. But there's so many questions coming up around him every day.
Only response that we've received thus far from the president himself is that this is the burden that he's willing to bear. And on the other hand, we're also hearing that the NC has taken a stance that Senzo Mchunu was influenced. Was he influenced, or he knew what he was doing? Let us talk about the topic of Senzo Mchunu and President Cyril Ramaphosa.
What was at the heart of the discussion on that matter was whether in our own interpretation, Minister Mchunu had said to us he was influenced, as opposed to whether he had said to us this was one of the factors he took into account when he took a decision. So the debate was not whether or not I believe he was influenced or somebody else believed he was influenced. We were fighting about our own interpretation of what he actually presented before the ad hoc committee. And my argument was that as far as my recollection can go and the evidence before me, because when you're sitting in the committee like that, we're all taking notes, I cannot find any information which confirms that he said to us, I was primarily influenced by the following information for me to take a decision.
So I've spoken about Senzo Mchunu before, made a dedicated episode on Senzo Mchunu and what I call the king of political interference. If you want to get to some of the issues or some of the things that Senzo Mchunu has been dealing with or has been implicated in, please watch that particular episode. Today, we're not going to delve deep on the things that have been alleged against him. What we're going to focus on in this particular video is the failure to take action. Because we can take all day, all the time and speak about how Senzo Mchunu has been interfering in the investigations, the shenanigans that Senzo Mchunu has been doing in the background. But the biggest issue that we are forgetting is why is the failure to take action against the suspended Minister of Police, Senzo Mchunu. So Senzo Mchunu is not an innocent player when it comes to the issues of political interference. We thought his role was only in relation to the disbandment of the political killings task team, and we thought that it ends there. But as the Madlanga Commission progresses, we understand that his role is actually deeper and deeper. And yesterday was one of those days where we realized that Senzo Mchunu is literally everywhere. He's influencing the Hawks against Lieutenant General Lt Mkhwanazi. He's influencing the IDAC to deal with crime intelligence officials. He's just a busybody, and his intention is clear. Lieutenant General Lt Mkhwanazi, Dumisani Khumalo, Fani Masemula, they have to be gone, especially the two, Dumisani Khumalo and Lieutenant General Lt Mkhwanazi, because orchestrating a plan against somebody and using all structures and not just the IDAC, you're also using the Hawks, influencing the Hawks, you're influencing the IP'd, you're influencing all these institutions that are supposed to be independent. You as the minister, you are influencing them so that they can lie against certain generals because you want them gone. So that is very, very problematic.
Deployed on me because we were seen as a threat to the national security, simply because there was a file on our desk about a very senior politician. And as a result, they deployed all the state resources to counter that. And I mean, that's why I was sitting at home for a year, not working. So that was no surprise. South Africans have forgotten that. I sit at home without doing anything, simply because I deal with the rogue animals in the organization, which then irritated some politicians. And I'm happy to say today, some of the rogue animals we're dealing with in the police are not in the service anymore. Some of them, senior people, are sitting in prison that we're dealing with back then in 2011. But when we're doing that, we were outcast. We were the bad ones, simply because we touched the wrong people. So we did not surrender then. We're not going to surrender now. So it's either we on paper, we do it on paper, we find each other in court. You counter with whatever you counter. I'm not going to play in the media thing, so they can write whatever they like.
Yeah.
I've been there for so many years. I've been bruised. So this doesn't scare me, and I'm not going to waste my breath in dealing with people that are faceless. But for those that are within the system that are doing things wrong, we're going to challenge them legally and deal with them. But if they want to come physical, we'll find each other on the field. That's just about what it is.
Oh, one of the things that I wanted us to play was yesterday's recording. Actually, I'm not going to play the recording. I'm going to play what the witness said, which is Colonel Govinda, which is Dina Govinda. Dina Govinda spoke about the minister's interference and how the minister actually interfered in the testimony of Mr. Govinda, wanted Mr. Govinda to implicate General Mkhwanazi in an investigation and say that General Mkhwanazi implicated in these unalivings that were happening that are involving gang members, whom at this moment it looks like the police just attacked these gang members. They got money, attacked these gang members, whereas the investigation is still ongoing. It's not clear actually what is actually going on.
Being Thursday, the 20th of August, 2026, at approximately 6:47, the caller called me again to call me to a meeting. I attended. The caller was in company of another person, and I'll refer, as Commissioner said, to the same person that he always accompanied with. The meeting lasted approximately 1 hour and 20 minutes. In this meeting, the caller continued to persuade me in line of what I have described herein above. In order to convince me, he made a phone call to Minister Senzo Mchunu. The Minister of Police who spoke to me, I recognized the Minister's voice as I had other occasions spoken to him. 9.2. The Minister inter alia asked how I was, told me that this is a very nice country. We must not let anyone ruin this country. He comes from the struggle. This reminds him of the apartheid days. I should tell the Commission that I'm getting instructions from Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi for the police shootings.
So we have all the evidence and it's kind of overwhelming, right? And it looks like we are dealing with a minister that is not innocent. Now the question remains, why is it that Senzo Mchunu has not been disciplined even to date? Why is it that Senzo Mchunu has not been fired? Someone even made an example of Senzo Mchunu and even said in other countries, ministers like Senzo Mchunu, they get unalived and they get to be removed. And he's part of the people that are contributing to the bloated cabinet that we have in South Africa. So we know that in South Africa, we have a lot of ministers and deputy ministers. And currently, just when you look at the police, the minister of police, we have 2 ministers of police, we have 2 deputy ministers of police. So that in and of itself is enough to show you how bloated it is. The cabinet, I'm talking about the cabinet at this moment. So now when we look at ministers like Senzo Mchunu, you're asking yourself, why is it that President Cyril Ramaphosa is failing to take decisive action against such ministers who have been heavily implicated in instances of corruption, interference, and all of these serious allegations that Senzo Mchunu is faced with?
Because now you know where the scams are. You got to not to hesitate to deal with that. One leader in one of the Northern African states, when they came to power, what did he do to the corrupt politicians? He shot them dead. I'm not saying we should do that. I'm saying we should fire them. A police force, a police structure which is so corrupt as ours, is not acceptable. We must change that police structure.
So our constitutional currently says that people are innocent until proven guilty.
Yes.
So the court, how would you then move quickly to fire them?
Number one, at the political level, I don't need courts. It's an executive decision. The smell of corruption, you go.
So Senzo Mchunu should no longer be there.
He should have long been fired. I said it many times.
I'm using an example.
Yes, and I'm not afraid to repeat what I said. He should have long been fired. He's not fired. He's been paid. We have money. But there's so many questions coming up around him every day.
Okay. So,
and I want you to understand the stance of President Cyril Ramaphosa, because it is at you understanding, getting yourself in the mind of President Cyril Ramaphosa, where you will understand and get to see why he will never take action. Actually, let me not say he will never. He won't take action anytime soon, meaning Senzo Mchunu can be named every day at the Madlanga Commission, but President Cyril Ramaphosa and the ANC, they are not going to do anything about this. First of all, let us start with the Secretary General of the ANC, Fikile Mbalula. Not long ago, he came before us as the public, told us to actually thank the minister, which is Senzo Mchunu, thank him for stepping aside because no one told him to step aside. He took the decision himself and decided to step aside after he was implicated by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi.
Speak about another matter, Senzo Mchunu. South Africans want to understand what's taking you so long in dealing with that. He previously made a comment that he's back with his responsibilities in the ANC, and there was confusion whether or not that was actually the case. Is he back when it comes to the responsibilities that he has in the ANC NEC?
He's not back. We have granted him his wish to step aside, even though the rule of step aside would not require him to do so. He voluntarily stepped aside, and therefore we have acted on that. We have granted him his wish to step aside. Senzo is not at ANC work. It's not doing ANC work up until the work of the Integrity Commission ends. He did at some point make a submission to want to come back. We advised against that. So he's still at home and looking at this commission to conclude it.
So as the ANC, you okay with him just sitting at home?
Look, we are dealing with matters of integrity. A person guided by his own conscience chose to step aside, to give this moment a chance. What else do you want from this comrade, this leader? That is what every citizen should applaud, because he has done the right thing. Madlanga Commission has not concluded its work. It has not said Senzo is on the wrong side. We can't act on prejudice about people. We must be guided by processes. But what a comrade, a cadre, a leader has done, it is applauded that voluntarily you take a decision to say, okay, I'm faced with this. I don't want my party to have a burden to explain itself about me. Let me stand for it. That's what Senzo has done.
Is he facing DC?
He's not facing DC. He has appeared before the Integrity Commission.
Yes.
The Integrity Commission will conclude on those matters.
They haven't concluded yet.
They have not concluded because they have not given me the report. They gave me the 5 reports. When they conclude, they will give me the report. They will present it to the NEC. We'll do as we do all the time.
You say 5.
He said that. And for me, I was so disappointed at the stance that was taken by Fikile Mbalula. I've once made a video about this particular stance that he took. And while we're still looking at that, previously, we used to get articles from Sunday Times of President Cyril Ramaphosa saying that Senzo Mchunu is a burden that he's willing to bear. You see where the problem is. The problem is not only Senzo Mchunu, but it's the people around him, his political shield that is circulating, that is covering him, ensuring that he doesn't take accountability and does not be removed from the seat of being the minister. Not long ago, the chief whip of the ANC, I'm not talking about something that happened I'm talking about something that happened the day before yesterday, which was on Thursday. He had an interview. He was talking about Phala Phala, which we're going to get to Phala Phala. He was talking about Phala Phala and the president and the ANC and all of that he was asked about Senzo Mchunu for him to clarify his stance. And how does this conversation come? It came because you remember, guys, there was a report that came out regarding the ad hoc committee. That the ad hoc committee, in a way, looks like it was the suggestions that the ad hoc committee wants to exonerate Senzo Mchunu. Wants to say there's no enough evidence to say that Senzo Mchunu is working with the cartels. Therefore, Senzo Mchunu was influenced. So the chief whip of the ANC was clarifying that stance, in a way emphasizing that stance, that indeed the evidence that is there, they can only argue influence. They can't argue that they intentionally and willingly was a willing participant in all of this. No one forced him to actually disband the PKTT. Maybe someone would have told him disband, but the person that had the final decision was Senzo Mchunu. And what did he decide? He thought it is better for him to disband the PKTT without consulting anybody. So now you understand the shielding, that the shielding is not only from the ANC as the party, but it's also from the President Cyril Ramaphosa, who is obviously the president or the leader of the ANC at this moment, but also the president of South Africa. So the shield is crazy. It's the same argument that people have made regarding Hangwan Maumela, that the reason why Hangwan Maumela has not even been put into the seat of accountability is because of his close proximity to the president and how his mother is a former classmate of President Cyril Ramaphosa. They know each other, and that relation that exists somewhere somehow. Hence, it is hard for us to see prosecutions of people like Hangwani Maumela. But why do we expect that someone like President Cyril Ramaphosa would actually take action? This is a man that has run away from accountability as much as he could. Number one, if we can look at the case of Phala Phala, we know that those who don't know their background, I'll just give us a quick run through, that there were people that broke into Ramaphosa's farm. They went there, they stole, they went there to steal, and some dollars were found in Cyril Ramaphosa's couch. That is just me summarizing, guys. I'm not giving details, just summarizing. And the next thing, there's investigations that were conducted, and just like that, President Ramaphosa had to face the might of the law. Sort of like a panel was constituted to find out whether there is a prima facie case against President Ramaphosa regarding those dollars that were found in his furniture. And the panel actually decided that indeed there was a prima facie case. So for them to continue and form an impeachment committee, the parliament had to approve of that process. However, at that time, the ANC was still in the majority. And then they decided that no, there's no need for the impeachment committee. Therefore, the way forward is for them to actually move on as if nothing happened. Because at that time, still, the ANC was in the majority. The EFF and the ATM delayed the process of going to court, but eventually they went to court. And I'm happy that they took the strategy of going to court during the time when the ANC was very weak. And that is when now they are part of the GNU. They then went to court, got a court order from the Constitutional Court, which said that it was wrong for the parliament to actually not constitute of this particular impeachment committee, because the report suggests and recommends that this impeachment committee has to be constituted to investigate, because there is a prima facie case. President Ramaphosa, the way he is, doesn't want accountability. He decided to go and review the decision of the Constitutional Court. Actually, he's not reviewing the decision. He's literally reviewing the report itself. And during this process of review, he has a problem with the procedure thereof and how it got to the decision, how the decision was even taken for them to even reach to that thing of there is a prima facie case. So right now, this process is going to be heard through review next month, in the month of September. However, President Ramaphosa was not happy that while he's undergoing the review process, Parliament is still continuing with its impeachment, meaning they're not going to be stopped by the review. They'll still call witnesses, they'll still investigate, and everything is going to happen in the public. President Ramaphosa then thought it's better for him to go to the High Court, interdict that impeachment process. And luckily, it was successful because the court looked at the factors that we consider whenever we're dealing with an interdict. And some of those factors is irreparable harm, that there's no other relief that is available. And in this particular case of Cyril Ramaphosa, it looks like the court's main argument and ratio decidendi was mostly around the irreparable harm. That if President Ramaphosa is undergoing a review and the impeachment committee continues with the investigation, he's going to suffer irreparable harm, especially since he's the president. Even though for me that is very questionable, especially when you're going to look at the judgment of the Busisiwe Mkhwebane case, where also she was in trouble with the law and there were serious allegations against her, and there was an impeachment committee that was supposed to be constituted. She went and asked for an interdict to stop that process, and the court denied, and the impeachment still continued. So looking at that precedent, the court just didn't care about that. They looked at the fact that we are dealing with the president, which is also another big argument that clearly, which means we are not the same in the eyes of the law. President Ramaphosa will have to get certain exceptions because he's the president. of which is going to be very interesting to see how this whole thing goes when it comes to Judge Mbenenge. So to those who don't know who's Judge Mbenenge, so Judge Mbenenge, he's the suspended judge president of the High Court in the Eastern Cape, and has been accused by his judge secretary that he was busy doing some unlawful stuff that are involving SEX. So he was literally making certain advances that were uncomfortable to the lady. As Advocate Ramsamy would call it, he was giving him the heebie-jeebies. Is it heebie-jeebies or something? But making her uncomfortable. And when they were looking at the chats between these two individuals, clearly there was something going on that, was signaling as if they were craving each other in a different way, in a way that, that way. I know you know what I'm talking about. So they were craving each other in that way, but it doesn't look like Miss Mango was actually willing to do this. She did this because I don't know if she was afraid of losing her job or what is going on, but it doesn't look like she wanted to do it. So it was then decided that there was misconduct from the side of Judge Mbenenge for doing that, sending those emojis that are suggesting that he wants something, from Miss Mango, which Miss Mango says, it amounted to her feeling uncomfortable and feeling like, hey, this one wants something more than just one we share here in the workplace. So after that report that says there was misconduct, he was found guilty of misconduct. An impeachment committee has to be constituted to then give effect to the impeachment, for him to be impeached as a judge. Unfortunately, now he's decided to interdict that process of the impeachment.
That the president is going to try and find an issue with every single aspect of the impeachment process, not because there's something to have an issue with, just because the president does not want the evidence as to what transpired in Phala Phala to ever be in the public domain. He does not want the evidence to be tested.
I thought that after that he'll be like, I'm happy, there won't be any public hearings of this impeachment. We'll just do things in private. The public won't get to hear what is going on with this case. Therefore, let us move on. I'm happy. Only to find out that he's actually he's stalling the entire impeachment process. Not just the public hearings, but even the evidence leaders, because an evidence leader was chosen and everybody agreed. Even the ANC itself didn't have a problem with that particular evidence leader that was appointed. That's one of the problems. Secondly, they all agreed that this is the evidence leader that we want. And all of a sudden, after weeks, I think it was like a week or so, President Cyril Ramaphosa challenges the appointment of that evidence leader.
If the ANC had issues with Madonsela, it would have decided, we were going to decide to vote for the other advocate who was competing with Madonsela. That's point number one. Point number two, I'm aware that Advocate Madonsela was advising the ANC on this matter. Like you are saying, I'm the chief of the ANC. So I was directly or indirectly involved in some instances where he provided guidance on what is ahead of us as we're about to deal with matters relating to the impeachment, the work of the impeachment committee.
So hold it right there for a moment. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
Did you disclose? Did you have a duty to disclose this to fellow committee members besides Mr. Madonsela himself putting out this information on his own volition?
He put out that information himself. The ANC Secretary General also wrote to the Speaker and officially informed her that Advocate Madonsela was working with the ANC, giving us some advice on the very same question. And we thought we should make that known, not because we're objecting to Advocate Madonsela, but to declare so that if it emerges at some point along the line, people don't say, but why were you quiet? The reason why that declaration could not be made by the study group of the ANC, Advocate Madonsela was in a relationship with the ANC, not the study group of the ANC. The headquarters of the ANC had taken a decision to work with him to give some advice and guidance on how we should navigate the matters relating to the formulation of the rules and the interpretation of the Concord decision and how we should deal with this matter when it appears before the impeachment committee.
The evidence leader, number one, the president says that he was an advisory of the ANC with regards to this Phala Phala case, and that they know him. Literally, they've worked with him before, so they don't have confidence with him. So they don't trust him with this particular process. I think maybe it's because they are realizing that he might not be as captured as they would have wanted him to, because we need to understand the importance of evidence leaders. Evidence leaders are so important, guys. They are so important.
Is it fair, though, for the president to also bring into the equation, I mean, let's take the ANC advice matter and put it aside for a moment. The president comes and says he was part of the Judicial Service Commission. He was serving there as a commissioner. This is the body that, in and amongst the many duties it does, it also helps with interviewing candidates for judges or be it Chief Justice. He removes Madonsela in 2022. In his place, Advocate Sesi Baloyi, who is now one of the co-commissioners at the Madlanga inquiry, is put in his place. But now the president comes back much later and says, well, by the way, this man might hold a grudge against me for removing him from the JSC, and therefore I have reasonable apprehension that he might lead things against me. Is that fair? This is someone who's a professional.
Only I have no details of what really occasioned the decision of the president then to remove Advocate Madonsela as his representative on the JSC. I have no details around that, and I can't speak with authority on them.
And if you can look at the processes of Madlanga Commission, evidence leader drives the vehicle. The evidence leader is the one that decides what should be revealed and what should not be revealed. That is how powerful the role of an evidence leader is. So we have the evidence leaders. So when you look at that, you see that evidence leaders are important. For example, look at ad hoc. I'm sorry, Advocate Arendse, but that's my view about you. But I feel like Advocate Arendse was one of those evidence leaders that might have been captured. Even if I can give you one example to show you that he might have been. Look at the case of Vusumuzi Matlala. There was a day where Vusumuzi Matlala was asked about Mkhwanazi Msibi, his relationship with Mkhwanazi Msibi. And the way Advocate Arendse was asking, he named everybody that, these people are the people that know Mkhwanazi Msibi, but he didn't name Julius Malema. I don't know if he did that because he was afraid Julius Malema was in the room, or what was he doing? So that in and of itself, don't tell me that Arendse didn't know that Mkhwanazi Msibi is related to Malema. We all know. Julius Malema, by the time he clarified through media briefs, the rumors were already there. The pictures were already circulating on social media. The fact that he didn't say his name, to me, felt like, I don't know if he was intimidated, afraid of these politicians, trying to save his job or what. But that is an example to show you that it's easy for evidence leaders to be captured. And if an evidence leader is captured, literally the whole process is captured.
There were a few more other prominent people at that funeral.
Yeah.
Mr. Molefe, Mr. Molefe was also at that funeral.
Yes.
So now we are dealing with this thing. President Ramaphosa realizes that this evidence leader might literally, if this review process doesn't go well, and this is going to be the evidence leader, literally, I'm going to lose. I think that's what. He was a threat. So he's stalling now through the evidence leader, even though different political parties have challenged him, but still remains that he doesn't want the evidence leader to be there. We don't know what the chairperson is going to decide of the ad hoc of the parliament. What are they going to decide on in terms of this evidence leader? But one thing is clear is that the president wants him out because they want the person that they can control. Remember, this is a do or die of President Ramaphosa and of the ANC. And hence now the process of stalling this entire Phala Phala thing is very important, especially in light of this year. The fact that it's an election year. In November, we are voting. They have to stall it because imagine if the impeachment process starts and that crazy and explosive evidence, including those IP reports that we used to see, they get to be laid bare in front of the South Africans. Do you think they'll vote for the ANC? Already the ANC is in the loose. Now, adding with the Phala Phala, it's going to make things worse. So stalling is the business of the day.
Ramaphosa believes there may be bad blood between him and Madonsela. He removed the advocate as his appointee to the Judicial Service Commission after the 2022 Chief Justice interviews. But the president also raised another issue. Madonsela recently advised the ANC on matters related to the impeachment inquiry. The president says this may place him at a disadvantage.
In favor of legal opinion 19 and against 5. Thank you, Chair.
Legal Services has got the letter. They will apply their mind and provide myself as the chairperson, but also the committee with the options available given the issues that have been raised by the president.
MPs accuse the president of deliberately trying to hamstring the process, but they will seek legal advice before deciding the next step.
The matter is closed. The ship has sailed. The ANC lost the debate. They participated by abstaining from voting. That in itself is a right to vote. Where you have to make a choice and you choose not to make a choice, that in itself is a choice. This is exactly what the ANC has done.
If they failed to convince all of us that we should not vote for Advocate Madonsela, it's their problem. It's not our problem. They chose to abstain and we respected their choice. And the choice of the majority was that Advocate Madonsela must be our evidence leader.
I want to endorse the view that says we need to get a legal opinion because the Stalingrad, whatever would happen, need to be legally settled up front so that we settle the matter once and for all. Otherwise, we'll go around in circles.
And stalling is what he's remained with up until those elections. So even the review process, I wouldn't be shocked if it takes time because he has to stall as much as he can for the purposes of ensuring that at least the election year is over. So now he's interfering with this whole process of the Phala Phala. So that is what is going on. I'm giving you this background, not because I want this video to be long, I'm bored. I want you to understand why you should not expect much from President Ramaphosa in regards to Senzo Mchunu. Not long ago, as I've said, one of the remarks I've made in the beginning of the video, we saw the report from the Madlanga Commission. We know after the Madlanga Commission goes on research, they then give a report to President Ramaphosa, and then President Ramaphosa then, after those recommendations, decide what he can do going forward. We saw the first actions that he wanted to be taken against certain officials, suspensions, investigations. A lot happened after the first report. The second report happened. By the time his comments came or his statement came out regarding the recommendations of the Madlanga, already there was just a lot of things happening, the arrests, there's just a lot happening. And he suggested disciplinary proceedings as well as investigations. And one of those people was Shadrack Sibiya. And those criminal investigations against Shadrack Sibiya, a lot of people were happy, including myself, because we thought finally, any time from now, we will see Shadrack Sibiya getting arrested. Anything can happen, especially looking at the allegations following Shadrack Sibiya. And what we've heard from Vusumuzi Matlala, that there's high chances that the police are investigating this Impala situation. So meaning that we should not be shocked anytime Shadrack Sibiya might be arrested. And I thought, oh, nice name, nice. We're finally seeing Shadrack Sibiya. Shadrack Sibiya, we didn't see him in the first report. But in this one, we see Shadrack Sibiya. But still nothing on Senzo Mchunu. I know you might be arguing that it's because Senzo Mchunu has not yet finished his testimony. Hence, there is nothing on Senzo Mchunu. I get it. I understand it. I'm not complaining. But Senzo Mchunu was implicated in the second half. A lot of things have been said about Senzo Mchunu. But you'll find that Madlanga also is recommending that they wait and hear what Senzo Mchunu has to say because he's a minister. So I don't want to only blame the president, because that's why it's important for that particular report to be made public. Because for as long as these interim reports are just between themselves, it's easy for us as the public to make our own inferences, our own conclusions, and end up coming across as if we are spreading wrong rumors, we are lying, we have agendas and all of those things. Hence, it's important for such things to be transparent and be made available to the public so that we as the public, we can know as to what is Madlanga saying about Senzo Mchunu. And is the president just ignoring that, or there's nothing on Senzo Mchunu that is being said? So that's another thing. That's the man you're dealing with. You're dealing with a man that overlooks Senzo Mchunu and is willing to protect him. Then the last thing that I want to talk about is service delivery. President Ramaphosa, the only thing he knows is clock it. That's the only thing he knows.
I welcome you and I thank you for being here, and I say clock it, clock it.
And I don't blame the former President Jacob Zuma calling him a crook. Not that I'm saying Jacob Zuma is way better and was the best president in the whole universe. But I get where he's coming from.
Yo phela lento kuthiwe kukhona umuntu ophethizwe emunye ongamazi noma uhlakaniphile noma akahlakaniphile noma isigebengu noma akasona isigebengu. Uma nje sinesigebengu esiphethizwe ngekhohlwa igama lakhe. Asifumene imali siyayithatha soyifihla embhedeni. Kodwa lo muntu uphethe sonke la siyahlupheka, kunabantu abayizintandane akayingeni leyo. Kungoku andazi ukuthi ubani ungakathi lo mfo siphethe ndimlibalayo wake wenzani wasenzelani. Akhona yodwa.
Because even the people in the ANC, I was once listening to an exclusive interview of Panyaza Lusufi being asked about this issue of water. That we have water issues in South Africa, especially in Gauteng, especially since he's the premier of Gauteng. And you know what he said? He said the issue of water is past. They've dealt with it. They've dealt with the situation.
The water challenge, I can say it's history in our province.
History?
Yes, we are waiting for a huge bulk water from Lesotho Highlands.
But I still know people that are struggling with water, that are struggling to have service delivery. And then we have premiers that can go to public platforms, tell people that all is well, all is perfect. It's the message that is being driven by the ANC to play with people's minds that ayi kinkinga, there's no problem. It's all in your mind. It's all in your brain. That is the type of leaders that we are dealing with that are protecting this person called Senzo Mchunu. So in light of all these things that I've told you about right now, do you think when they will take action against Senzo Mchunu anytime soon? We are still going to hear a lot of allegations and they're going to be deeper and serious. But I don't think there will be action now, as in like the way we see even with other departments, that when people are implicated, they get fired. When people are implicated, they get investigated, they get arrested. It looks like with Senzo Mchunu, his political shield, it's too strong. That we can babble and be crazy and talk here on YouTube every day. Nothing is going to happen. Nothing is going to happen. We just have to make peace and move on and just hope that one day something will happen, probably maybe at the end of this whole situation. Already the ad hoc made it clear that high chances Mchunu won't be found guilty. Imagine now with the Madlanga. Madlanga might suggest that something be done. But at the end of the day, Madlanga won't force anybody to investigate anybody, won't force anybody to deal with anybody and fire them. President Ramaphosa doesn't mind having a bloated cabinet. And he doesn't mind using taxpayers' money, the very taxpayers that are complaining about these ministers. He doesn't mind taking that taxpayers' money and fund their lifestyles, meaning giving them the salary despite the fact that they've been sitting at home and they're implicated every day. So what am I saying? All I'm saying is that the problem is not only with Senzo Mchunu and him being implicated almost every second at the Madlanga Commission. The problem is also with President Cyril Ramaphosa's failure to take decisive action and dealing with his problems and fighting his battles of Phala Phala, overlooking the serious issue of Senzo Mchunu, the serious issues that are being raised at the Madlanga Commission regarding the corruption that is happening in our country. Nothing is going to be done. These people are being funded by these very people that are busy being exposed at the Madlanga Commission. But let me not be too emotional. Let me hear what you think about this episode and what you think about everything that I've been talking about. Otherwise, guys, I'll see you on my next episode. Bye.